Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started as people keep rolling in here. It's 8:03. And so, first of all, I'd like to welcome everybody that's joining us today. Thank you so much. Kind of explain the format, but before I do explain the format, I just want to introduce our panelists today with us, and I'm just going to go across the board as I see them. So starting with Mr. Daniels, our school board president. Rob, would you like to say something this morning?
Good morning, everyone. Glad you could all join, and we'll do the best we can to answer your questions. Good morning.
Thanks, Rob. Also with us is Mrs. Nora Hoover, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning. Mrs. Hoover, would you like to say good morning?
Yeah, good morning. I'm glad to see so many people up and ready to go and interested in all the great things Dr. Arkanoff's going to talk about this morning that we'll chime in on.
Awesome. And then finally, not finally, but next is Mr. Jason Taylor, our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources and Technology. So,
hi there. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Look forward to meeting all of you.
Great. Hey, that's a great background, Jason. I love that.
I just found that online. Thanks.
I thought it had Chip and Joanna Gaines over to Denver. You were out.
Yes, and then finally with us is Stacy Conrad, Executive Director of Communications. And good morning, Stacy.
Good morning. I'm excited about this new track record for our coffee chats here with all these people on. It's awesome. Yeah. Maybe we should do all of them virtually.
Maybe we should. Maybe we should. So Stacy's role today will be to moderate the questions that we get in the chat box. She's going to be over to the side there where all of you can put in your questions. And she'll be able to then kind of drop those questions over to us. She may ask you if she can bring you into the conversation, and we can do that a couple of different ways. We can bring you in and you can be one of the panelists, for example, and your video and your voice will appear just like us, or we can just have you do a voice question if for some reason you feel like you don't want to share your video. So with that being said, we're going to kind of just jump in and talk this morning. I know probably the biggest thing on folks' minds is graduation and how COVID-19 has affected so many decisions in our school corporation and where we're at. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that and how we're trying to make those decisions. And then we're also going to just kind of respond to what questions all of you have out there. So Stacy also put in the chat box up there, you can see a couple of things. We had a couple of questions come out kind of early and talk about those things, and some of those that are really related, good questions about e-learning in particularly, and I want to talk about that as well. First thing is, Mr. Daniels, would you like to, talk about anything in particular for folks, or
Rich,
just,
did you want to cover graduation, or do you want me to kind of make a statement on that?
Yeah, sure. I can, yeah, I'll go ahead and just kind of share out. I wanted to share with everyone that for graduation, I know some people kind of read our letter from Dr. Henderson, and probably when they read through it, they felt like the decision had been made to cancel graduation in person, and that's not the case. What we are looking for is when we could host it safely in person. Our objective is to try and do it in person if at all possible. We're working towards what would be the best time to do that, and given whatever happens from us, above us, from the governor and so forth, and what directions were given from the State Board of Health or health department and so forth, and what we can be allowed to do. So as far as graduation goes, it is not a done deal that it will be virtual. However, what I will share is we are we are developing a virtual graduation for those that definitely do not want to participate in a physical graduation. So we are looking at how we might be able to do something that will have the best of both, if you will. So if we're able to still do a physical graduation, that is our preference. So would you like to?
Yeah, I thank you, Rich. I know you wanted to make that clear, and I'll echo that. We've had the administration's had several discussions. They've talked to the school board too, and we all want to have a live graduation, but we also want to put everybody at ease that there's a plan B if we're not allowed to have a live graduation, that we'll look for a virtual alternative. So thanks, Rich, for clearing that up, because I know we've had a lot of folks reach out on that issue. The only other thing I'll add, and then I'll turn it over to the next person, is just thank everybody. We're in uncharted territory. The folks between Rich, Jason, Nora, Stacy, and others you don't see are really working hard. They're really out there trying to do the best they can under the circumstances to provide the best e-learning experience for the children. So show us grace, show us patience. We are doing everything we can within what confines we have with e-learning to try to keep the kids engaged, to keep the kids educated, and we'll continue to do that. Obviously, this COVID virus is not anything anybody wished upon their worst enemy. And here we are, and everybody's continuing to social distance and do what they can. So just show us grace, show us patience.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate that. And speaking of people working hard right now, Mrs. Hoover, why don't you share a little bit about what's going on in teaching and learning? We can kind of address some of those questions while we're talking.
Sure. I know there have been some questions on the side about e-learning, and so I can address some of those. We started training about 18 months ago to move to an e-learning platform for inclement weather, so that if school was canceled for some reason for a day, maybe a couple of days, that we had other options other than just using those snow makeup days, because so many families already plan those as long weekends, and it just disrupts a lot of things. So we wanted to have some other alternatives, and besides those days or tacking on to the end of the year. And we began training through our coordinator of connected learning, and she has a team of teachers, coaches she works with, and they started training all the teachers, K through 12. Many of our high school teachers already had a lot of training because they were using Canvas, many of them daily, but we still wanted to make sure everyone had similar background and was ready to go. We restarted that effort this year, knowing if we had a snow day that we would use it, we would do e-learning on a makeup day. And then that storm at that point never came, and we never had an e-learning day through the school year. Unfortunately, we're at a place that's much different and much worse for kids right now. And for teachers, this isn't what anyone would want. So we took a lot of input from teachers, from our principals, from all of the district administrators on what was the best thing to do for kids, because this extended learning period is very different. With regular e-learning for a day, we wouldn't be doing new content with kids. There'd be, we hadn't planned for that kind of e-learning. And so now we're quickly shifting gears to do something different. We also know that without the time to be in front of kids, the instruction is going to be different. So that's why we went with, and we used guidelines from the DOE to kind of determine how many minutes per day or per class for those middle school and high school kids. And we went with 3 days a week because we need to do something sustainable. And we also need to give teachers a chance to look over all that work and plan. That's where those 2 days on Monday and Tuesday come in. Those are basically prep period times where teachers are planning, because moving anything from what they were doing in the classroom to virtually is taking a lot of work and a lot of time in order to do that well. And so it's very complicated. It's not an easy question and have an easy answer. But we're hoping to do the best we can. We also know kids are going to miss out on some things this year. That is happening everywhere in our state and really all across our country, as schools are dealing with the same thing. And so we're going to use some of that contract time at the end of the year. We still have teachers for 2 weeks, and we're going to plan to see how next year needs to look different for our kids to catch them up and get them back on track when we can see them face to face in person and deliver the high quality instruction that we're all used to in the classroom.
That's really good, Nora, and I appreciate that. You know, one of the questions around that is why did we choose to do the 2 days a week of waivers and 3 days e-learning? You know, what I think a lot of folks are trying to, you know, figure out that from the e-learning. And I also saw someone asked a question, you know, is there any way to have the e-learning start later? Like, right, somebody said something, I can't remember who it was, but someone said, you know, why is it starting at 8? Could it start at 9 or things like that? Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
It's interesting because some said, can we start at 8? And some said, you know, a little bit later because, you know, my high schoolers, we know their schedule and they're not getting up that early. So we tried to find a happy medium. And all along as we had planned for just inclement weather days, e-learning days, we'd planned a 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock for our teachers, not a little later, an hour and a half later for our high school kids and our middle school kids, but about the time those elementary kids would start class. And many teachers, it says our rule is less lessons posted by 9 o'clock. Many of our teachers are out there getting their lessons up at 7, 8 o'clock. So they're not, a lot of times some lessons are there before that 9 o'clock start time. So it just depends. That's just a deadline for teachers. And that's actually when their office hours start to, so that's when they're available to students as lessons go up. And then they have that afternoon from 1 to 3 where they're also available.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I might suggest to folks in the attendee box, I think if you go to the Q&A, you'll be able to submit your questions there. They get kind of lost in the chat box, but if you drop them into the Q&A box, we can definitely track them. We can type answers and we can answer them live as well. So I just want to make sure that we don't miss your question. So if you see the Q&A box, just click on that link and then type in your question there, and you can cut and paste it from the chat box if you've typed it in there. So when we talk about e-learning and we're talking about, you know, everything that we've done, and we're doing the 2 waiver days for the prep, and some people understand that. And but some people are wondering, why are we ending on the 15th? Why are we not going, you know, to the 28th? I believe was our official last day of school. Why are we not going longer? What was some of our conversation and thought behind all of that? I think you said it a little bit when you talked about planning.
Right.
Here, but
right. We also are very cognizant of the fact that this is really hard for people. I know all of us on the screen with you today that work for the district, we all have children in school, in our schools, and it's very stressful. My 6th graders, one of them yesterday was talking about her fear at dinner time, and she'd never talked about that before, and she was worried about people dying. And we need to understand how our kids are feeling. This is very hard to wrap their minds around, and stress levels have never been higher. It's really impacting the mental health of people, those people already at risk, and also people who normally don't have problems. And so we had felt all along, and I think, and I appreciate that Dr. McCormick, our state superintendent, has also been very clear about, let's make sure we do the best for kids. Not only let's do whatever we can do academically in the time we have, but let's also focus on taking care of all those social emotional needs kids have, because right now those are being met at home. They're not seeing their friends. There's so much missing. Let's make sure we're not overwhelming them, but actually finding some ways to take care of them. And there are a lot of resources resources on our website for what we call social emotional learning to help families to get through that part. And so a lot of this comes down to the recommendation, not only of Dr. McCormick, but we're getting research. I know as district administrators, research is coming at us left and right. And it's to be very careful of how much we're putting on anyone, and particularly our students right now.
Yes.
I would say that was what those things made our final decision to take advantage of. Like, I don't know any school district that isn't either thinking about it or hasn't already done how do we meet the guidelines the governor has set with, you have to have this many days. And so we moved forward with taking advantage of that ability.
And I know that's been a hard one for us, and just, people are all over the place on this with almost 9,000 children in our school district. We've got people all over the place on what they can handle in the e-learning environment, and coming to a happy medium, if you will, of ending on the 15th seemed to us to be the right time to give parents and children a break from this environment, especially for those folks who are not used to it, who it's really difficult for. As you can imagine, I know, talking with parents and staff members who have little ones, and trying to do kindergarten, first grade, third grade, when we were handing out devices. And I really want to compliment Mr. Taylor and his team of handing out over 400 devices the other day. They did just a great job, and I was really pleased with how quickly that went. So great job, Jason, to you and your team. And those, when I was out there, there would be people that had 2, 3, sometimes even 4 kids. I think one guy even said he had 6 kids at home. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, he was wearing a military uniform. And I said, I bet you wish you would volunteer to be deployed right now. So he said, I'm thinking about it. But he had 6 kids at home, and there's just a lot going on for him and all those kids. And so it does add a layer of stress when we're asking them to teach from home. So I understand that. So everything we can do to find the right balance, you will, in all of this. And again, it's new for us. It's new for so many families trying to do this way. One of the questions we have here, and forgive me as we we're kind of learning this as we go, but we have a couple of questions about lockers. How do I get back to my stuff? How do I get my stuff out of the school? We've talked a little bit about that. Jason, should I put you on the spot?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dr. Arkanoff has asked that Dr. Long, the other assistant superintendent, and myself put together a plan. And that's something we're working on with our principals. We understand that our students did not get to leave the buildings in the way that they would normally leave for a summer, nor did our teachers. And so what we're doing is working on a plan that would allow students and parents at the elementary schools, if needed, to come into the buildings and retrieve any personal items that they have and need to get home for the summer. We also understand that probably our students have some resources at home, possibly a device for learning, or a textbook or curricular material, maybe even a library book that they've checked out that we need to get back into the building. So we're working on a plan. Somebody used the word platooning kids through the building, and it would be somewhat like that. It would be something we need to schedule out in advance and have students come in smaller groups. Can't have the whole building come at once. So that's what we're working on. Obviously, with the current state of our stay at home, we would not anticipate doing that until May, and possibly late May, depending on where we go next in this pandemic response. So we are putting together a plan that would allow this to happen. Probably for us, since we're going to be teaching up through May 15th, it would start right after that, assuming that things are better and that we're seeing some more some lightening of the social distancing rules. That's what we'd be looking for. That's what we're working on.
Thank you. And that kind of rolls into the next question, which someone said, has the DOE or the governor expressed any concern about the start of school next year? We haven't, we haven't heard anything directly from the governor's office about next year. What we know is that everyone is kind of working on about a 2 weeks out decision-making process, just trying to figure out when is the peak, when does the curve flatten out, and when will we be on that downturn so that we can start engaging in more face-to-face activities. So we haven't heard a whole lot. We are moving forward with the assumption that we're going to start school on time. That's our plan right now. That's how we're reacting to this, unless we're told otherwise. So that's a good question, but at this point we haven't heard much. Nora, is that correct? Have you, in everything you've received?
Right. And Dr. McCormick's doing a great job keeping all of us involved in where they're at. And so she, every Tuesday morning, does a webinar much like this, where we can send in questions. And that's come up, and they said, we just can't possibly know that far out. There has been concerns about summer. She's like, I would start planning some alternative, like for summer school. She said, we may be able to have it, but you want to have that backup plan just in case. And so it's hard to talk August, but definitely it's on their minds. It has to be on everybody's minds, but we want to hope for the best. And that would be much later in summer, making plans for this.
Yes, absolutely. And I did see a couple more times, so people might have come late, but there were some more questions about graduation. I just want to say that again. We are looking at what we can do for a physical graduation. That is our primary objective, and trying to find the right date. Some districts, some school corporations have put out tentative dates. We have not done that yet. We want to make that decision in May. Someone had asked, well, what's going to happen in May? We just feel like we're going to get closer to having a better understanding of what date might be out there. Maybe late June, maybe July, maybe early August. We're going to kick those around and see if those are dates that people would support. So as a matter of fact, I will take this opportunity. I think I can do this. I will push out a poll right now I'd like you to take. And the poll is, would you support moving an in-person graduation to late July or early August? I'm going to launch the poll now. You should be able to participate in it. Hopefully all of you can see that. Go ahead and vote. I'll give that a few minutes while that's running, and then I'll share the results with you. So please look at the poll. For those of you, I see no one's voting yet, so hang on a minute. My wife's in the other room yelling at me because she's participating in the call as a test subject. She's participating as a parent, I'm sorry.
Hi, Beth.
Still no, does anyone see the poll yet? No one sees it yet. Okay, let me end it, try it again. Relaunch the poll. Allow panelists to vote. Sure.
Yep, there it is.
Panelists can see it. Can participants see it now? There it is. Okay. Panelists are voting away. Okay, that's an easy one. Okay. I'll share the results here when they're done. It's very obvious. Okay. All right, so while that poll is going, and so we're looking at that, it's slowing down now. There's 65 attendees total, 70 counting participants. I have 47 votes, so I'll let it keep running. While we're doing that, I'm gonna look at this question. There's a question about grades, Nora, and let me find that again here. Stacy, can you find that question for us, or state that question? I lost it on my screen.
Sure. It's from an anonymous attendee, but it says, can someone confirm high school third week's grades will be accounted for in the student's final GPA?
Yes, I can confirm that. And there's actually another question on there about that I'll wrap in about discussions to change high school to with the pass-fail option, I think. And so those discussions have all taken place at the state level, and for high school, because it's legislated, and that it was discussed about a pass-fail option, and that was not the direction that all the people at the state level decided to go with. And so third quarter grades will count, as will fourth quarter, but Dr. Henderson and his team have made sure that they're taking into account how different what we're doing is. And so it's a hold harmless. So students can't do worse than what their third quarter grade is, but they can do better. And their grade will be figured kind of a combination between their third quarter work and what they're able to do fourth quarter in e-learning.
So that also kind of answers that other question about, as long as they participate and they work, they're going to get their credits. And so I want to make sure we answered that one as well. I think that's an answer to that question. Why don't we bring Mr. Russell in for a minute? Jack, would you be willing to come in to the conversation? I know you've had a question. So are you okay with that, Jack? Him asking. While that's happening, there's Rob Richards had shared, are you aware that there's a petition going around that has 1,200 signatures to have a real graduation? Yes, I am aware of that. Thank you, Rob. I'm going to share our poll. Doesn't have 1,200 signatures, but this is the result of our poll on graduation. We get Jack in there. Okay. So, oh, Jack went away. Where'd he go? Sorry, folks. There he is. Okay. There he is. Okay, Jack, I'm going to bring you in.
Okay.
There we are. All right. Jack, you want me to show your video?
Probably not.
Okay. That's fine. Jack, why don't you ask your question?
Well, and this is a personal one because I have a first grade niece or kindergarten, I'm sorry, that she's really, really struggling, and it really hit the fan yesterday. And mainly because she hasn't been able to just see her teacher or talk to her teacher. And I'm not sure what we're doing to encourage our teachers to make connection via FaceTime or however they can do it with the students.
That's a great question, Jack. And we've had a lot of conversation about that. And Nora, you want to kind of chime in that, and Jason too, if you want, because you've all been part of those conversations with, we have our director of mental health and school counseling, Heather Fosnot, who has been working with our staff on this very topic. So Nora, I'll let you go.
Yes. We have greatly encouraged our teachers to make those connections with kids, whether through video that they can post online. Some of them are hosting Zoom conferences, much like this one, where kids can all see each other and talk or get instruction. I know my kids have played some group games where they could work with partners to go in and do work. So there's been some really creative solutions teachers have found to not only interact with their kids, but also interact with sometimes other kids. And so I think those things are out there. I would suggest if anyone has a child struggling, reach out to that teacher. And I would even reach out to elementary teachers, to the school's social worker, and at the middle school and high school level to the guidance counselors. Let them know that they need that connection. I know those positions are really working right now to take care of kids, and they're making personal phone calls to families, whether it's to the student or the parent, and making contact to keep them engaged in school, because we know this is different than any of us have ever done. And we're trying to take into account, we have to do things much differently.
Yeah. Jack, thank you. I'm going to put you back out as a participant, but thank you very much for that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. No, I don't think I want to do that. We'll get you there in just a minute. While I'm working on that, Jason, this is a really good one. Don't mean to put you too much on the spot, and this is probably a combination question, but you know, last night with the storm, Wi-Fi is out in some neighborhoods, and so as far as this coffee chat goes, we're recording it and we're going to post it on the web. Stacy will take care of that, so those that couldn't participate will at least be able to watch this and get the information. But how are we going to deal with, wow, no Wi-Fi, power out, all of that? That's an e-learning today.
Sure, I think, I'll just share. Obviously, we do need electricity, and we need connectivity for students to really participate in e-learning. Mrs. Hoover's team set up a model of e-learning that really offers students and parents as much grace as we can. If a student can't complete the work on the day it's assigned, that's okay. We understand that life gets in the way. We also understand that we could have parents and students who may be suffering from the COVID-19 virus, or may have a loved one that they need to care for, and that they need to focus on that first. And so they can work with their classroom teacher to let them know why they couldn't complete it. If for some reason it's not accessible, the teacher can allow them to access that content. We understand that's our biggest struggle. We do have some local resources available that are providing some Wi-Fi hotspots. One great provider that some of you may have is MetroNet internet at home. They've actually stepped up and are sending the school some hotspots that we can share with some of those parents who are in the greatest need, and just simply where money is becoming an issue, and we don't want that to get in the way of a student's learning. This isn't our ideal format for learning. This is one that, as Ms. Hoover said, we put in place so that learning could continue when we couldn't physically be together. We still want those social connections when we can to complement our great teaching and learning in the district. So they can definitely reach out on the COVID-19 webpage that we have available. They can kind of share with us that they need some help with connectivity, and we can make some of that happen for them.
Great. Ms. Hoover, you want to add to that any? No, you're good? Okay.
You did a great job.
He did a great job. Hopefully we answered that question for everyone. So as we're looking here, I see a couple other academics, some really good questions here. I know that hold harmless does not apply to dual credit classes. What about honors AP? Still no worse than the third 9 weeks grade. Do you guys see that question, Nora? You want to kind of address that one?
Yes. Definitely with our AP courses, they're working really hard to prep them for the test. That's much of the goal of this class, to earn that credit. And so we have a multitude of resources already in our school, plus the College Board has given us and students access to an immense amount of materials for kids to prep. So our teachers for AP are hard working to get kids where they need to be for those May tests that they'll be taking at home. And AP's actually shortened those tests for kids, so it doesn't have all the parts to it normally would. Dual credit's a little bit different, but all the colleges have been very good about understanding the situation, and they're providing a lot of flexibility and grace, much like they're having to do on their own campuses, because they're also all switched to e-learning. So our teachers will do our best to get kids where they need to be and be fair about their grades. But again, like you said, we just want kids in there, engaging in their work, doing their best, working with their teachers if they feel like they're behind. As much communication as students at the high school level can do with their teacher, the better. I know my own husband's a high school teacher, and I hear him during his office hours talking to kids about 3 or 4 hours a day. He's yeah. online or on Zoom talking to kids. Yeah. So reach out to teachers.
And you know, that's really good, and kind of back to Mr. Russell's question. Also too, like a lot of our deans and assistant principals and some of our classroom assistants and so forth, who normally are more engaged in the day-to-day interactions with students as kind of like their primary job, are doing things like reaching out to kids and calling and talking with parents and just staying connected for that emotional support, which has been really nice. I've talked to a few of them already that have shared, it's nice to just call and say, how's things going? How are you feeling? Is there anything we can do for you, and so forth. And speaking about anything we can do for you, I do want to share with you that Center Grove is partnered with the Impact Center. Stacy, can you want to just explain that a little bit for folks, how we're doing that with the food pantry at the Impact Center?
Sure. So there are a lot of rules that come around food service funding and how we can pay for that food and who we can provide it to. And we recognize that a lot of families who may have qualified for free and reduced meals at the beginning of the school year, that number may be a lot greater right now. And obviously we only do that application once a year. So partnering with the Impact Center allows us to make that food available to anyone in our community who needs it. They have a system set up that we're going to provide the food that we've purchased through some of our vendors to them. And in speaking with our food service director, Shannon Maples, she says that a lot of the things that we're able to provide through our vendors are things that the pantries don't normally get. So they're really excited about being able to provide those to the families in our community. But the Impact Center has a registration time. You have to be a resident of Johnson County, but that's the only restriction. And those times are Thursdays 9:15 to 9:40 and 6:15 to 6:40, and then Saturdays from 9:15 to 9:40. That's that registration time. And then you can get in and choose your food and all of those kinds of things according to their rules. I did put that in the questions and answers, some of that information, and it's also available on our website. If you go to the Center Grove website /free resources, information is in there about food assistance, food pantries, the free Wi-Fi setup. We've linked to the United Way of Johnson County is doing an amazing job of compiling all of the different resources and other food availabilities around the county. And so we're linked to that page that is updated every day. So there's just a lot out there on our website for people if they are looking for things.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. And so all that information's there. And one of the biggest reasons we wanted to work that way was just so that we didn't have to live under those restrictions, and we could provide anybody that needed that support, regardless of your situation, that you could go and get that. So, so another good question's up here about the impact of this on academics, and particularly what are we doing for any type of remediation? And we've been having some conversations about that, and what can we do to do some remediation. So I'm going to let Mrs. Hoover talk about that, but while I do, I'm going to also then launch this poll that's just going to ask you, would you have your student attend a virtual summer school? And that would be more for like a remediation process. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that. Make sure, can everyone see that? Oh, yep, okay, votes are coming in, so please go ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Arkanoff, this is something we have talked about, again, across all levels with administrators and teachers. We know next year is going to be a different start than we've ever had, just like this is a different end than we've ever had. And so we're going to take a lot of time working with our teachers to figure out what didn't kids get at the end of this year, and how do we make that up to start next year. And so there will be a lot of work between, if your child's in algebra, a lot of conversations between the Algebra 1 teachers and the Algebra 2 teachers to figure out what we have to do to fill those learning gaps between 3rd and 4th grade. We're going to be doing that across all of our levels to make sure that it's as smooth as a transition as it can be. The nice part is every kid's in this boat. So it's not like it's just a few kids in the class that need help and are struggling. Every kid's going to get that chance to come back and get that same information. And I hate to say remediated, because some of it will be new material we just didn't get to this year, but we're going to fill those gaps to get those kids prepped and ready to learn that next grade level or that be ready for that next course material at the secondary level.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, as we continue to work on that, our summer school program, as we look at, may look different. We've been talking about what can we do, particularly even next year, which kind of leads me into the next question. And that question is next school year, will e-learning be available for days that kids are unable to attend school, being sick or doctors, you know, needs or whatever, doctor's appointments, I think is what they mean, and then, or unable to attend, this way that kids will not be so backed up. One of the things that we've thought about on this issue is that this new reality of virtual learning, of e-learning, will very much appeal to some people. It may be just something they prefer. We do see that already. There are virtual schools out there, as everyone knows. We've also actually seen an uptick in enrollment back to the district from homeschoolers who now have been homeschooling, and now they're taking advantage of the content and material and instruction that's happening from Center Grove. And so they're participating in e-learning. So that's really great. I would say that what we're thinking about now is, how will our new normal look next year? Are we going to need to provide e-learning as a part of what we do on a regular basis? Is it, are we just going to have to make it an enhancement to what we do? Is it an option? Is there something that will be a mix? And so, Jason, Nora, you guys want to talk about that a little bit? Kind of some of the things we're thinking about? I'm going to end this poll here, and I'll share out the results.
As Dr. Arkanoff said, we at the high school level have gone a lot more virtually with kids. We have global campus classes where our students are taking a class completely online, and we have many courses available at the high school to do that, and we're really close, and going to soon be able to probably offer not just a class or two that way or summer school, but be able to offer that to kids as their school. And we're looking to, we've talked about doing a small trial or a pilot next year with a smaller group of students to test out how that works and what works well and what doesn't. But the great part about that would be students are still enrolled in Center Grove schools. And that would also mean they could still participate in extracurricular activities. And that would be kind of the best of both worlds for some families. So we are looking at those options. I don't know exactly what next year will look like, but we want to be able to put that out there. It gets a little bit trickier at the K-8 range, because I will share that the high school teachers who teach those classes, they did learning for about a year. What we've thrown our teachers into so quickly took those teachers about 12 months to figure out how to do it. It's a lot of training. It's a lot different to engage that way. Again, my husband teaches those global campus class. And so it's not just putting your stuff on the web that you're doing in front of kids. You have to think of it very differently. So to do that at lower levels, we'd have to really look at what that would look like. That's a little bit more trickier because we don't already have a structure in place like we do at the high school. I know parents asked if there were some long-term illnesses or students. I don't know if e-learning would be available, but we would definitely accommodate any kids that can't come to school when school starts. And we would do our best to work with those families to make that learning available so they don't come back to days or weeks of work to do.
That's a good answer there. I'm going to try and bring in another participant here. I'm going to stop sharing that poll, as you can see, for the virtual learning. So let's see here. Did everyone see those results? Did I share that? Not yet. Yes, there we go. Did you all see those results by chance? Okay,
Yes.
good. Okay, good. All right. So Chris, before I bring you in, there is one that kind of keeps coming up, and that is graduation. Definitely, as a father of a senior, I want you to know that it's extremely important to me as well to do a physical graduation. It's something I've looked forward to my whole career. So being able to do that with my children. So it is really important to me. And I do see firsthand, being a dad, of a lot of the missed opportunities now. And particularly folks are talking about prom. And that's a hard one as well. It makes me sad. He was planning to go to prom. My daughter's a junior. She was planning to go to prom. She's got her prom dress, and I told her, hey, you can wear the prom dress next year. And her answer to me was, the only person that helps, Dad, is you. These are some hard decisions, and they are very personal for myself. Of course, Dr. Henderson has a daughter who's a senior as well. So as you can imagine, it's hard for him. These are just hard decisions. We want to make the best decision for everyone. And we want to make sure it's a safe decision. So when we're looking at prom, there's a couple of issues about prom that come up that for a school district to consider. Probably one of the biggest is just the actual environment or the activity that prom is. And that is, getting together, dancing, sweating, all of those things immediately right after a pandemic doesn't seem like a very wise thing to do. It's different than a graduation. There's a lot more, throw social distancing out the window if you have a prom, if anyone has ever attended. So there's that. There's also the concern that, students that make poor decisions and events like proms, big events like that can often can present the opportunity for kids to make a bad decision that will hurt other kids, will hurt themselves. With everything all this time that kids are, being social distanced and all of that, to come right out of that and jump right into a huge event where we're throwing everybody together immediately after being secluded, if you will, for so long, could result in some really poor choices on student parts. And so we really want to be able to mitigate that as much as possible. It's also a supervision issue as we try to figure out, coming back, how would we supervise an event like that? Now, the other part of those questions are there some things that we can do for these students to kind of get them an opportunity, like yearbook signings or just a get together of some sort for our seniors? And definitely those are great ideas and things that we'll work on. And Mr. Russell's in the Alumni Association. He's part of that. We'll definitely be talking with them how we can bring those kids back at some point, and particularly like when we talk about graduation and trying to do a graduation in person. And it might be June or July or even August. And if we go that far out, we want to make sure that we can do something that will honor our children and of course all of you parents who have worked so hard to get them to this point. So with that, would either one of you like to add, any of you, Mr. Daniels, would you like to add to that while I try to figure out how to bring Chris in?
Well, while you're figuring out how to bring Chris in, yeah, I'll add to the seniors. I don't have a senior. I had a senior last year. I have a junior this year. I know a lot of the seniors in this class and their families, because my kids are on either side of it. And we are doing the best we can with an unknown future to have as many events as we can for these kids, because I know senior year is special. It was special for my daughter last year, and next year will be special for my youngest Bethany. So ultimately, if other events can be planned, if graduation can be live, you know, they're talking about this on a daily basis. We are listening. I know my daughter started the prom poll right off the bat when she heard it might be canceled. Had a lot of folks sign up for that. I've seen change.org graduation polls going on out there. We are listening. So when those issues come up, reach out, let us know about them, whether it be via an email, whether it be, you know, however you can. With an uncertain future as to when this social distancing and stay-at-home order is going to be lifted, that's why we're pushing some of those dates out, like graduation, telling everyone something early in May. We're hoping in May to be able to tell something other than a new date for a decision, but we at least wanted to let everybody know, let us sit tight here for a couple of weeks, see what happens, and give you an update, because this is a great senior class. You know, I think there's a lot of great senior classes out there, but this is a really great senior class, and these kids deserve better than this. We all deserve better than this, but under the circumstances, we'll pull together and we'll get through this.
Great, thank you. Chris is joining us. Chris, you asked a question down there. I thought I'd let you just kind of ask that, and then we can try to respond to it.
Thank you so much, and thank you for doing this. This is fantastic. The question I had was stretched resources at the school, e-learning, teachers are in a real bind. Is there, and not knowing all the rules, laws, facets, et cetera, is there a reason why seniors couldn't go ahead and be done now and allow the teachers who are now freed up to support those other teachers through classroom management, e-learning, grading, et cetera, and then also begin work on remediation for the summer and all those things you were talking about earlier? We now have a cadre of staff who are freed up to support all the other folks, maybe offer optional AP prep, et cetera. But with the governor's executive order, I'm just wondering if there's a reason why they couldn't be done now and let them help.
And that's a great question, Chris. I'll let Nora kind of jump into that one for you.
Yes, there is a reason, because we were told we can't do that. The state said that they set out new parameters on what you have to do to meet, what districts have to do to meet the requirements for the year. And part of that rule was, yes, it's a shortened school year, but it also means that all students, even seniors, need to stay engaged in school. So we can't just say seniors are done. So they're in there, they need to be doing their e-learning lessons and doing their best at this point and participating. And they'll earn credit by the structure that Dr. Henderson has set up for grades. But yes, they do need to continue. There are a lot of AP resources out there, because not only are teachers going to continue to give all of that prep they were doing for kids to get ready for that test, the College Board itself is also pushing a lot of stuff out to kids who are already signed up for the test, because they have their information. So they're getting it from multiple areas. And again, since the tests are shortened, they're able to really focus on just the portion of the test the kids will be taking this year.
Thanks. And I guess just one last thing would be, is there anything we can do as members of the community, maybe to support the Education Foundation? Or I'm thinking about some of the teachers out there that if they're doing this from home and maybe have had to expend resources to buy technology or things like that to be able to do this, hoping that they're going to be reimbursed. But is there anything we can be doing more to support the school, maybe through working with the Ed Foundation to help get more resources out to parents who need it, students, et cetera?
That's a great question. And of course, the Education Foundation is out there. You can get to them on our website. The Center Grove Education Foundation, they're working hard to take the funding that we have and provide resources to our teachers for what they need. And also, oh, did I lose you, Chris? Okay. So that's a really good, oh, there you are. Okay. That's a really good question. And working with them and anything that you can do, you can give online to the Education Foundation. So you can do that. You can also, volunteer. There's different opportunities to volunteer, particularly in the future. I know that the Ed Foundation, and I believe Jennifer's on here. Let's just see. Is Jennifer on here by the chance? Why don't we bring her in to try and find her here. There you are, Jennifer. I'm going to bring you in if that's okay. I'll allow you to talk, and then if you want me to share your video, you can. So, Jennifer, would you like to address Chris's point real quick?
Yeah, that's great, and I appreciate the fact that Chris thought about us. We have reached out to the school board and the school corporation and have let them know if there's anything that we can do to support students and teachers. We are happy to jump in and help in any way we can. I know we had a virtual board meeting last night, and that was one of the discussions that we had. Folks can visit us online at centergrovefoundation.org, and there's a place where people can make donations. We're actually in the midst of a grant cycle right now, but we realize that sometimes life does not always happen within the parameters of a grant cycle. So if there are needs of the corporation, whether those are student needs or teacher needs, if there's a way that we can help support financially, we're happy to do that. We'll continue to look and see what those needs are and how we can best support.
And Jennifer, just to give you a little props, the Education Foundation does wonderful things for teachers with grants and things outside of the school budget. I did in the comments just post the website, www.centergrovefoundation.org. I would recommend anybody getting on there and checking it out. That group and Jennifer do a wonderful things for the school.
Thank you, Rob. That's great. I'm going to launch another poll. This is just a curiosity question. Are there any of you out there considering not attending school physically next year? So I'm going to launch this poll. Please take that when you see it. Jennifer, thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate all that you do. Jennifer is our executive director of the Center Grove Education Foundation. So thank you, Jennifer. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I'm good, Rich.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Got a hand raised. I think Mr. Russell wanted to say something. Jack? Were you there? Maybe not. Sorry.
There now?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. I didn't mean to hit that, but anyway, I will sing the praise.
Oh, never mind then. We'll cut him off.
Remember, I signed your paycheck. I will sing the praises of the foundation as the others have. They've just done wonderful things over the years, and who would know they would be needed so much now in a situation like this. So any donations would be wonderful to help support what they do for the teachers and the school.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you. Okay. I'm just checking through our questions. Stacy, do you see any that we haven't addressed?
There was one about hiring that I think Jason could probably answer. He's working really hard on that,
Yep.
and it's probably a good thing to share.
Absolutely. Yeah, good question.
Yep, happy to. Yeah, I think someone asked about thinking ahead to next year. We are thinking ahead. We actually start our staffing process in February, and we work with all the principals looking at enrollment numbers and plan on this. Hoover helps me with those meetings a lot, and we plan on what staff we're going to need just to maintain our current programming and then for growth as we see our enrollment continue to grow. And we're still very hopeful it continues to grow into next year. We were able to have a recruitment fair the week before we closed. We actually did it that Thursday night, March 12th, and had a great turnout of over 100 students come to the Innovation Center, and they got to actually meet our principals. After that recruitment fair, we take that list of the top candidates and we do a second round of interviews. And that's kind of where we're at right now. Right after spring break, we're setting up those second rounds of interviews so that we can kind of figure out here are the top 10 or 15 teachers we want to hire this school year. We did have some retirements and resignations, and some of those are the positions you see posted out on our website today. A lot of those, the process for filling started prior to spring break, even prior to that recruitment fair. We leave those up until the final candidate's selected. So many of those are getting close to having a final, or they already do. And we anticipate to fill those at this upcoming board meeting next week. So expect to see some of those postings fall off. Some other new ones will pop on, but we continue to work ahead, planning for August and hopefully a normal school year next year.
Great, thank you, Jason. Yeah, it's a lot of work, and we're conducting those interviews as we speak. A lot of through this virtual world that we live in now. There's a really neat comment here from an anonymous attendee about maybe discussion for another time, but the class deserves some sort of plaque or recognition for this class. I think that's a really neat idea and something that we can look at and maybe even talk with the Ed Foundation and others, maybe the Alumni Association in that. So thank you for sharing that. I really like that idea. Also too, when we talk about the graduation and thinking about dates for graduation, we are thinking about athletes when do they have to go back. We're also thinking about, when kids have to go to college and the different start times. Some kids are probably going to go to college and go to earlier start times, maybe start in the summer and so forth. So we are thinking about that. As we continue on, one last question, one last poll I'm going to push out to you all if you could take. This is just going to help us a little bit. This is, please rate your e-learning experience 1 to 5, 1 being poor, 5 being outstanding. We'd like to just get some feedback as we've been launching this e-learning. For us as a district, we're constantly collecting data. We're collecting so much data right now on e-learning, it's just crazy. And we use all of this to try and make it a better situation as we continue to move forward. Are there any other, I'm looking, and I know we're past our time, I'm launching the poll now. So that's going out there, hopefully folks can see it. And I'll share those results as well. And I'm looking at questions. Stacy, do you have another question or two that we should look at addressing that we haven't? I did see one about the donations to the Ed Foundation. Yes, you can mail them, call them in, I think. You can.
Yeah, I've been responding to some of those questions. You can click on the Answered tab. I'm also going to post something in the chat there with our district website. Mm-hmm. We are updating all of that latest communication on the website. So if you see something in an email and then can't find that email again, like me, because my email is like soup, there's way too much in there. But all of that is on there on the district website. It's thecentergrove.k12.in.us/COVID-19. We've also started a separate page just for the high school, and that's at /CGHS latest. And there's even a tab on that one for seniors as more information starts coming out for seniors specifically. So all of Dr. Henderson's communication that we had from a couple days ago is posted in there. There are FAQs, questions and answers. As I see questions on social media, I'm getting answers from people like Nora and Jason and posting those on there in those frequently asked questions. So that might be somewhere to check in if you have a question. There's also a little place where you can click and email a specific question. So we're trying to keep that communication line open without spamming emails every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, there's just a lot of great conversation going on. I'm kind of scrolling through here. So I apologize. Somebody's calling me. Okay, there we go. Thank you very much. I'm going to kind of wrap this up. I got that poll finishing up here. I'm giving it just a minute. It looks like 68% of possible voters voted on this. Votes. I'm sending that in. I just want to remind everyone that we are recording this. We will post this on our website so that you can watch. We will do this again. We'll probably do it sooner than later. We probably need to look at what date we'll do it. We'll get that out to you as well. I'm really thrilled that we had over like 80, I think, people join us originally. So just fantastic, great parent involvement always, as we have in Center Grove. It's what makes us so great. So I really appreciate all of your input and your participation in this. I'm just so honored to serve all of you. With that, I just want to open it up to all the panel to share anything that you'd like to share out before we close up for the day.
I just say, folks, our employees are working really hard, many of them from home. If you get a chance to just take a moment, shoot them a little email, or if you know one personally, give them a phone call or a message on Facebook or Twitter or something. Just give them some encouraging words. You know, a lot of our staff members are parents, and they're dealing with everything you are day to day at home as well, along with providing great learning for your students. So for anything you can do, raise their morale, I'd appreciate it. Thanks for your time this morning.
Great comment, Jason. Thank you. Good, Rob.
I can share, Rich.
Okay. Yeah.
I agree with Jason. People are working so hard, and I appreciate, I've been reading all the comments, and I think having this chat today, you've been able to see behind the scenes what went into some of these decisions. And I appreciate that you've recognized and understood, even if we still don't all agree, but you've understood that, you know, typically our focus is on an exceptional education for every kid. But right now we have to think about how do we do the best we can to do that goal while also keeping everyone safe and understanding the complexity around us with the pandemic and the stress at every level. And so with that, that's what our teachers are focused on, is staying connected with kids, engaging them the best they can in learning, and having foresight to say, what do we need to do next year to help get over this and bring kids back to what we'd normally be doing and expecting. So it's huge. It takes us all at the school, and it takes all of you parents at home to get this done. And we appreciate we have such great partners to work with. Our teachers are working so hard, and I just feel so blessed to work in a place where everyone is amazing here. And from our teachers, administrators, our school board, our parents, our students, we are so lucky. But we're all just doing the best we can right now. Thank you for understanding.
Thank you, Nora.
And I'd like to add to that. I'm also glad that we had so many participants today. Get the word out, because we want to do more of these. I'm glad that you get to see the wonderful folks that are out there working for your children every day. I know a lot of them have grown up through different positions at Center Grove, so you may have remembered Nora as a principal at the middle school, and one of my girls was there. But at the same time, you see, as she said, some of the behind the scenes. But I also want to challenge you all to listen to the CDC guidelines that are out there, challenge you all to continue social distancing. And I know with two teenage daughters, it's hard to remind them social distancing. But you know, you're doing it for the grandparents, you're doing it for the parents, you're doing it for the whole community. The best chance that we have to have a live graduation, the best chance that we have to return to normalcy sooner rather than later, is for everybody to do the best they can right now to social distance. Because if you look at the data on the national level, it's starting to look like it's making a difference. So please, I challenge you all, let's work together and let's get through this. And I thank not only those that are on this, but our staff, our teachers, everybody that's pitching in. We'll get through, we'll be stronger, we'll learn from it. And, you know, just hang in there, folks. We'll be all right.
Thank you, Rob, and I appreciate those comments. So as we're wrapping up, I see a lot of great suggestions and ideas for how we can celebrate our seniors in the Q&A and on the comments. And so we're gonna curate all of that stuff. We always do into some different documents that we can continue conversation around those ideas. So please keep them coming in. You can reach out to us. Stacy, how can they reach out to us? Email wise, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. You can send one to communication@centergrove.k12.in.us, and that comes to my department, and we will share those out with whoever needs it and get those questions answered on all of our different forums.
Fantastic. Thank you folks for the panel today, for joining us so early. We are going to get another date out for another one of these. And then of course, we're going to post this on the web. So please let your friends know to come to the next one. And everybody's coffee was on me today, so enjoy.
Mine's cold, Rich.
It's cold. All right, fill her up. Thank you, everyone, and stay healthy.